and most especially our firefighters. Their work takes place no matter what the weather is, no matter the temperature. And in Arizona, we know it's an unforgivable sun. I also want to thank already the staff that are pre-planning and engaging in the work for 2025. This is a serious issue. Heat-related issues equal health-related issues. And we need for the federal government to step up more. Already, both Congressman Gallego and Stanton have attempted to address this issue, but we need the federal government to pay more attention and to really understand that Arizonans face tremendous heat. Venetians, is that the correct term? Venetians face an unbearable heat. And I am most especially concerned about our unhoused people, the elderly, and children, and what they have to endure in this heat. So I welcome the federal government to work with us, to collaborate with us, and to really reach out to the mayor and say they are ready to be partners in combating this heat. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman, for your leadership. There are several new facilities in Council District 7, and we really appreciate your leadership in that area. One of the changes that we made this year was that the Office of Homeless Solutions and the Fire Department played a much larger lead in the city's response because of the impacts and because this is an emergency. I'll now turn it over to our subject matter experts to explain in greater depth what we saw this summer. I want to introduce Brian Lee, our Director of the Office of Emergency Management, and Assistant Fire Chief Tim Kreis.
Thank you, Mayor Gallego. Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for joining us today as we discuss the critical heat relief efforts in our city. As we know, Phoenix experiences extreme heat, especially during the summer months, and our primary goal has always been the safety and well-being of our residents. This year we implemented several key initiatives aimed at providing heat relief to the most vulnerable and protect them against heat-related illness. This includes, as the mayor discussed, opening cooling centers, increased public awareness and outreach about hydration and safety, and partnerships with local organizations to distribute water and supplies to those in need. I am very proud to report that these efforts have made a significant impact. By proactively addressing the needs of our community, we have seen a notable decrease in heat-related emergency incidents. And frankly, I am so proud of this because the reports that we have from our team is about a 20% reduction when compared to the same time last year. This summer was hot and it was difficult, but we're very proud of that. We continue to encourage residents to take precautions in the heat, and although the worst of the summer is behind us, we know that more still needs to be done. To Mayor Gallego and the council, your leadership on this has been absolutely remarkable, and we are so thankful for it. We really appreciate that. And together we can combat the dangers of extreme heat and keep our community safe. Director Lee.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Mayor Gallego and Councilman Galindo. Good morning, everybody, and thank you again for being here today. As we all know, the extreme heat poses a serious risk to our community, and it's the Office of Emergency Management's responsibility to ensure that we are prepared and responsive to those needs. I'm proud to highlight some of the coordinated efforts that our incident management team took this summer in addressing this critical issue. Our team has worked tirelessly to implement a comprehensive heat relief strategy that includes not only opening additional cooling centers, but also ensuring that there were extended hours of operation and allowing residents to stay overnight when needed. This coordinated response involves collaboration with local agencies, nonprofits, and community organizations. Together, we've developed a robust communications plan to ensure that residents know exactly where to go for relief and how to access available resources. One of our key achievements has been the successful distribution of thousands of bottles of water and hydration supplies to those most in need. This effort has proven essential in reducing the number of heat-related emergencies and consequently the number of 911 calls that we received, as Chief Kreis just alluded to. As we move forward, we will continue to assess and adapt our strategies to ensure that we're meeting the needs of the community in a manner that's most effective. Your ongoing support and engagement are vital as we work to protect the health and safety of our residents during these challenging months. Thank you all for your dedication and for being part of this essential effort. At this time, I'd like to introduce Director David Hondula with the Office of Heat Response and Mitigation for some remarks.
Thank you, Commander Lee and Chief Kreis, Mayor and Councilman, and good morning, everyone. Mayor and Councilman, thank you again for the opportunity to serve this city in this capacity, and to Chief Kreis and Commander Lee. It was a real honor and privilege to work alongside you this summer on this incredible mission. I learned just a couple of days ago this was one of the longest ever activations of the incident management structure in the city's history for all hazards, and to see it focused on heat is, of course, very encouraging to the Office of Heat Response and Mitigation. Our office strives to coordinate and improve citywide efforts to protect people from extreme heat and to create a cooler and safer community. And part of that work is leading the annual update to the city's heat response plan. This is a plan that was first implemented in 2022 and has been updated each year since. It contains 9 different strategic priority areas that you can see behind me, and there are more than 30 actions across these 9 strategic priorities. As we've been discussing already today, this year there were some notable changes to the plan in a few areas, including new initiatives related to worker safety, both for city employees and city contracted businesses. We had new and expanded volunteer engagements, and of course the extended hour and overnight heat relief sites. I also want to acknowledge that there is a lot of critical work that is happening beyond the substantive improvements that we saw this year that do play a really critical role for the community. There are dozens of other cooling centers and hydration stations throughout the city. We issue grants to community partners. We enforce a cooling ordinance for rental properties, and we distribute water, 1 million bottles this summer, to a wide network of regional partners. This year we also benefited from new and valued collaboration with the county, with our regional planning organization, and with the state, thanks to new staffing investments that they have made. The regional heat relief work this year was absolutely more coordinated than it has ever been before, and at yesterday's statewide heat summit, that sentiment was echoed by almost everybody in the room. And that collaboration, our new investments, the direction and leadership of mayor, council, city management, and more were especially essential and timely given the weather. As the mayor already alluded to, the best way I've heard it described is that we had a record-setting number of records this year when it came to our summer heat. And as was alluded to, it's too early to have a complete assessment of the numbers, but I think it is important to acknowledge the weather that we had as setting a context for interpreting and conducting the evaluation work that is ahead of us in understanding what worked well this year and what we can build upon going into the future. Regardless of how the final numbers shake out, I wanted to share 2 observations with you about the mission this summer. First, and we'll hear more about this in a few moments, like Chief Kreis mentioned, I'm very confident there's been a significant and positive public health impact from this work. Lives were saved and lives were changed. And then to echo the comments from the mayor, there is a lot more work to do. One heat death is one too many, and we have to further lean into partnerships and develop and identify new funding strategies with all level of government to be able to scale up and sustain our successes. And now I'm really happy to talk about successes by introducing my colleague, the Director of the Office of Homeless Solutions. She is an inspiration to me and to our whole community. Please welcome Rachel Milne.
Thank you, Dr. Hondula. Thank you, Mayor and Councilman, for allowing me to speak today. One of the most important aspects that we put into our planning efforts this summer with the entire team was our navigation services at all 5 of our enhanced heat respite sites, the 24-hour site, our overnight site, and our 3 extended hour library sites. We're incredibly grateful to Community Bridges, Inc. for helping the Office of Homeless Solutions provide navigation services all summer long and sticking with us in October when we continued those services given the extreme heat. Navigators were present at each site to help individuals who reported they were experiencing homelessness connect with resources if they were looking for services outside of what the heat respite site offered. Each site had access to transportation to transport people immediately to services if they so desired. 92% of all the visitors at our 5 enhanced sites this year self-reported experiencing homelessness. Our navigators helped 893 individuals in these 5 heat relief locations to services such as housing, shelter, treatment programs, our safe outdoor space, and reconnections with family. Of those 893 people, 168 of them were families with minor children. We helped 92 kids and their parents at heat relief locations in need of a place to sleep access those resources and the services they need to start ending their homelessness. One of our beloved OHS team members who spent literally her entire summer at the Burton Bar Library is Caroline Fawn. She personally helped hundreds of people end their homelessness and access services that will help them end their homelessness. And one of the families that she helped is here with us today, Devon and her fiance Keith and their 2.5-year-old adorable daughter, who I accidentally gave some pens to, and so she's now a little messy. Sorry. They came into the Burton Bar Library looking for a cool place to be. Caroline helped them access a hotel room temporarily while they were waiting for a shelter unit at UMOM to open up. They are now out shelter at UMOM and doing really well and working on ending their homeless. So thank you so much for being here today. And thank you, Caroline, for changing the lives of hundreds of individuals this summer. You are an absolute rock star. Looking forward to next year, it is clear to us that we will not be able to operate these sites without vital navigation services. They are transformational and imperative to these efforts. We are grateful to the county and state for their financial support this summer, and we are very hopeful that they'll be able to financially support in years to come. Thank you so much, Mayor Gallego, again for your leadership and support, and I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you so much. The City of Phoenix is committed to the innovative efforts we've used to keep our communities safe. But we cannot continue to tackle this public health emergency operating without increased support from our municipal neighbors, from the county, the state, and federal government leaders. We know we must do more. We have a variety of new programs we are already working to bring on for next year, but we need our partners to do more. Thank you for coming. We'll open it up to questions.
If I could get all the speakers just up there in case reporters want to direct questions to, that would be really, really great. Okay. Yes. And please introduce yourself.
Yeah.
So folks
Emily Donnie with ABC15. This will be for Dave. I know you guys throughout the summer have been looking at things and identifying issues, challenges that you want to fix for next year as well. And you mentioned that there are some things you guys wanted to change for 2025 summer. What are those specific challenges or issues you've identified in the response this year?
We're just at the outset, and thank you for the question. We're at the outset of analyzing data from heat-related illnesses, and we'll certainly be working with the county and state to understand the data sets that they have. I think the spatial configuration of resources is a topic we address every year. Where do we need to have cooling centers? Where do we need to have these additional investments? That's a question that the data will help us answer, and that's going to be a highly collaborative effort with our partners in fire, emergency management, and so many more. So locations and the service model are certainly topics we'll continue to work on. Thanks.
And then just clarifying, that was 911 calls that you said was a 20% reduction in?
Oh, yeah, thank you for the questions. The question was, the 20% reduction was specifically focused on heat-related illness calls that are identified by our firefighters and paramedics on the actual ground and entered into our electronic patient care reporting system. So when we look at the number of heat-related emergencies that our firefighters are dealing with, we saw a 20% reduction when compared to the same period last year.
Do you know how many of those cooling bags that you guys used this year?
I hesitate to give a number. I know we do have a number, and I can get that number to you. I am so proud of that, and I know that everything that we've done as a city, the things that have been discussed today, we have saved lives, and that's been a part of it. You're welcome.
Hey, Katie with KJZZ. This might be for the mayor or Rachel, I'm not sure. Do you have a ballpark number of like the percentage of the funding for all of your heat relief efforts that came from grants or from the county? How much was actually paid for by the city, and what would be the difference if this funding ended?
1.8 million from the city, American Rescue Plans dollars, 500,000 from the state through ADOH, 1.6 million from the county. 1.8 million from the city through American Rescue Plan funds, 500,000 from the state through the Department of Housing, ADOH, 1.6 million from the county. Mm-hmm.
But the city money was ARPA money?
It was.
Okay, so Brenda with 12 News. I just have a question.
Obviously, we know that this is something new, and so it's kind of somewhat kind of trial and error. Are there some things that you that could have maybe that have been learned from that maybe will carry on into the next year?
We thought the coordinated approach from the city with an incident management approach was very successful. Our fire department is one of our city's largest departments and had a far-reaching network that helped us dramatically improve our heat impact. We really tried to have it be all hands on deck at the city, and that again was more effective. We thought the extended hours and the overnight hours were important. As mayor, I want to encourage my fellow mayors and the county to also have facilities with hours like we did. Heat does not end at Phoenix's municipal boundaries, and so we need other cities to step up with every community should have good access to overnight facilities. Power outages could happen anywhere in the valley, and people face evictions and other challenges throughout the valley. We feel like Phoenix is doing the lion's share of the difficult work. We can save more lives if more levels of government step up.
Mayor, you said that there were other things that you guys were looking ahead to do and add to this program for next summer. What more needs to be done, and what more resources need to be put in place beyond just the funding?
We'd like to see the state play a larger role in cooling. We need better coordination around some of the public health challenges. Many of the people who experienced heat deaths were facing addiction. Decades ago, the city of Phoenix had taxing authority around public health. We gave that up to the county, and so we're going to need more success in that area. The city of Phoenix is trying to do more public health education, but we are not the jurisdiction that has the financial support for that. We have very difficult numbers of people who are facing addiction to opioids. I would love to see the Attorney General with the opioid funds prioritize saving lives that are impacted by both opioids and heat. That is something I wish to do with the portion of the opioid funds the city manages, but we only have a minority. So there's a lot that we can be done, and we will continue to do more. We are already bringing on new resources as soon as the next month, and we plan year-round for heat at the city of Phoenix.
Joan.
Hi, John Myers from the Arizona Republic. Do you guys have a way of tracking your leadership role? Like how many other city leaders have reached out to you for advice? Do you have a count on that?
The city of Phoenix has spoken with people all over the world, from London to communities in the United States that do not have heat as often as we do. I regularly talk to other mayors when they experience heat waves. Our fire chiefs have talked to people really throughout the world. We have real expertise, and we are happy to share it. President Biden had called on me to consult and talk with some of the other mayors, and we're doing more and more nationally, but we would benefit from more permanent structures around this, because from Michigan to Maine to Portland, Oregon, communities that used to be known for easy summers are facing harder ones.
Yeah, I think it would be great if there was a formal way of tracking how this expertise is leading out into.
Okay, we could try that. We'll have the Joan list. Do you want to add to that?
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks, Joan. It's an interesting proposition, and we will think about it. To echo what the mayor said, when international organizations and national organizations are convening discussions on heat, we are invited. When the C40 Cool Cities Network thought about where to have a convening of cities to work on heat, they came to Phoenix. When the 10 Across network of cities is engaging the federal government on heat, they demand that we be part of that conversation. And I think we can tabulate with all of those, and we are happy to contribute in those forums, because as the mayor acknowledged, this is not just a Phoenix issue. There's a lot we can share out, and also a lot we can learn from others.
Yeah. Alexis with Arizona Family. I don't know who this might be the best answer, or who might give this best answer for this question, but I know one of the newest efforts this year was trying to hand out brochures that gave information about some of the shelters or resources, because one of the things a lot of people complained about in past years was that they didn't have a cell phone, or they didn't have a computer to see what resources were available.
how much do you think that contributed, and is that something that we're going to be doing again next year to make sure that we get the word out on where people can go?
Sure. I'll take this one. So yes, we put a lot of effort at the beginning of the summer putting together all kinds of materials and making them as accessible as possible. Not only brochures, we had bus station information on bus stations. I can't remember what those are called. We had billboards. I mean, we really had a huge effort to make sure people got the word out. And I definitely think that it worked. We had over 30,000 visits to our 5 extended hour locations. So it was definitely a success.
Okay, so Brenda again with 12 News. I have one more question. So we were talking about how millions of dollars have been allocated to this through the city, through the ARPA funds. How much more in ARPA funds are left? Obviously you're calling to action and asking other entities to get involved and contribute funding. How much money do we have left to be able to continue these types of efforts? How big of a concern is it? Are we going to have money for next year and the year after, or is it just through the next year?
Heat and addressing homelessness are 2 of the top priorities for the City Council. We are facing a difficult budget situation because of the former governor's flat tax and the latest legislature's budget negotiations taking away our ability to tax residential rentals. So it's a huge budget impact at the same time that the federal aid is declining. We are looking at our entire budget, but 2 areas where we've said we cannot make cuts are around heat and homelessness because they are such community priorities. That is why we are making this very strong call that other municipalities, the state, the county, and the federal government do more. We can save more lives if more partners come to the table.
Mayor, may I add to that?
Yeah, why don't you add to that?
I think there's another, thank you for your question, it's really an important one. There's another component here, another partner that we need, and that's the philanthropic community. We need for them to work with us as partners starting now so that we prepare for 2025. So this is a very good opportunity because it's not just good public policy, it's a humanitarian issue. And if we can get philanthropic donors and organizations to partner with us, we're able to provide more services, continue the services, and to be able to expand our touch point throughout the community, because we know that there are more people that need services, but we have a finite amount of money. So call to action for philanthropic donors and philanthropic organizations.
And one more question. When it comes to, I know there's been a lot of conversation about FEMA declaring heat a national disaster. Where does that stand? Where does that conversation stand? And is that something that we'll continue pushing for, just seeing how much heat has actually impacted us here in the Valley?
For several years, I've been calling on FEMA to include heat explicitly as an eligible federal disaster in the Stafford Act. The Biden administration sent me a letter that they do consider heat to be an eligible category. I believe that legislation is still important because we could have a new administration with a different interpretation. The last thing we need during an emergency is uncertainty and lawyers disagreeing about what the exact responsibilities are. My first year as a city councilwoman, we had terrible flooding, and FEMA declared a disaster, and we got new resources, including resources to help us navigate. There were not a lot of people experienced in flood response at the city of Phoenix, but FEMA was able to connect us with important disasters, as well as financial resources to help our residents who were deeply impacted and to do prevention in the future. So all of that is unlocked. FEMA could help with a variety of different challenges, including mobile cooling units. Our fire department does have some mobile on-site cooling units that we can bring to fires and other disasters, but there's efforts around scale, and it is very possible if we had a very large fire that the city resources would be exhausted. So we very much would like to see FEMA explicitly have that authority. Congressman Stanton and Congressman Gallego have introduced legislation to do so, and I'm hopeful. One silver lining about the terrible heat numbers from this summer is that we will realize this is a national issue. It is not just a Phoenix issue, and we will finally see Congress pass legislation.
We have time for like 2 more, so yes.
Yeah, so I'm Ignacio Ventura with Rockeye News. With Phoenix having such a large Spanish-speaking population, how will the city continue to provide services and resources to them in the future?
Buenos dias. Spanish or English? Either one. It's incredibly vital for us to communicate with the community at large, especially the Spanish-speaking monolingual community, that these services are available. So it's not just putting it on TV, it's not just a brochure, but it's us really going out into the community. And that's one of the things we've done in District 7, is to go to the community, have advisory boards, and let them know what are the resources that are available. So it's crucial to build on that, and it's crucial that it be done in a multicultural way that is appropriate and that is understandable for the different communities impacted. And let me just say, if there are other communities that speak a different language, we should be adaptable to that too.
Yeah, this question is for the mayor and Dave. It's another one about coordinating with other cities. We know that homelessness and the heat problem are related. So what are your interactions with neighboring cities like in terms of sharing the load and dealing with that? Because a million water bottles handed out is a lot, but if we keep setting records or breaking records, that could just go up and up. And if Phoenix is offering more services than the neighboring cities, we also get more of the responsibility, right?
I served as chair of the Maricopa Association of Governments for the last year, which brings together the mayors from Maricopa County as well as tribal leaders. I made sure we repeatedly got updates on heat-related planning and really tried to share the information. Some of the mayors had not seen how many heat-related deaths they had or heat-related calls in their community. So I think sharing that information hopefully will spur action. There were some communities, such as Mesa, led by Mayor John Giles, that really took that and tried to do more. But if you look at the list of overnight heat respite, we obviously have a lot more work to do.
Thanks, Joe, and I'll just add that we are fortunate to have the opportunity to engage with neighboring jurisdictions through their voluntary participation in work groups like the Arizona Heat Resilience Work Group, which ASU helps convene, so that there is absolutely a dialogue, but as the mayor said, there's a lot more ways to scale up and formalize that dialogue, and we're hopeful and excited to envision a future in which those other jurisdictions have more resources on the table as well.
I apologize. I was a little late. Morgan, Phoenix New Times. You probably already mentioned this, so I apologize if it's repetitive. But you mentioned that heat deaths had decreased from last year to this year. What was that decrease?
Thank you, Morgan. I didn't particularly mention deaths specifically. That'll be something for the county medical examiner. But what we did share, and we can share because for the fire department that data is readily available, is we have seen a 20% reduction in heat-related 911 patients when compared to last year.
But that death number, you don't know that?
I'm not ready. I don't think we're ready to see. You want to? Yeah, go ahead. Thank you.
Thanks for the question. The Maricopa County Department of Public Health tracks heat-related fatalities in the community. They have a nationally leading heat surveillance program. They have a public dashboard that has the up-to-the-minute information on where they are. We were speaking with them yesterday, and their assessment, and you'll see this on their dashboard, it is still too early to know how the final totals will be, as a high percentage of their cases remain under investigation.
All right, one more little soundbite nugget about the cooling bags. From May 1st to October 1st, Phoenix firefighters used the rapid cooling bags 304 times.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah, I love that.